Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. And we are here to help you access that. Today, I have my co-host, Renee Warren and Onita Hall. How y'all doing?
Hey,
Very good.
doing good.
I'm glad to have you here. Ebony cannot be here today, but she'll be back soon. So today, our program is entitled The Best First Date Ever. And we have some cool stories for you. But before we do that, let me just remind you, Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, this is your last day. I didn't even know the last day was the last day of the month, but that worked out. This is your last day that we'll be streaming to Facebook. I need you to come on over. Just come over to YouTube. What's the deal? YouTube's awesome. There are many other great things you can watch on YouTube. So come on over to YouTube. You can go ahead and come now, subscribe, like, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, and share, comment. That'd be awesome too, because that also, lets us know that you're interested and you're engaged and you want to share this with other people. So that's what we want you to do. I'm going to go ahead and share this now, and then I will share it again at the end. As I mentioned last week, the book is coming out, Pray It Forward. It is a devotional and journal for women wives who choose to fight on their knees. And what that means is that these are women who maybe their marriages are on the rocks, having marital issues, and they are at their wits' end. A lot of times that's when we pray. God isn't mad. Of course, it's good to pray first. But I know when I try to pray, sometimes it gets unfocused and unclear, and I'm just kind of rambly. And so these are 31 devotionals that will help you pray through specific issues for your husband. And then we've actually added a second section, that's the praise section. So 31 days of praise after 31 days of intercession. So this will come out on December 3rd, and you have to get it, and you have to get it for all your friends. And single women, don't worry, I got you covered, because the next one that's going to come out is for you to pray for your future husband. So you got to get this one for your married friends, and then get ready for your future. All right, ladies, I'm super excited about that. And now I'm excited about this. So before we talk about the best first date ever, let's talk about your worst date. Renee, tell me about your first date.
Okay, so good thing is that I actually don't have a lot of bad dates, right? Okay. So the story that I'm about to share is probably only one of two, but it was, let me just tell you what happened.
Yeah, just tell us.
Okay. So I have a gentleman who asks me out on a date. He takes me to this really nice, kind of fancy restaurant. The lighting was really dark. The ambiance was just nice in this place, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't, for some reason, I'm thinking maybe it was hibachi, but also not, right? So when we are there, we have like this multi-course meal. And so we have our first course, and then our entree comes out. Now, let me say, I used to be a shrimp fanatic. So whatever my meal was, it was shrimp something. And I'm eating my food. We're talking. We're having a decent time. And the next thing I know is the way this restaurant works, they move on to the next course, whether you have finished your meal or not, right? And so I was totally unprepared for the waiter to come from behind and reach to grab my plate. Nobody told me that. Like, you could have given me a heads up on this, right? And so as the waiter grabs my plate, what do, y'all? I grab my plate. I'm not done. And so the funny part to me is that even as I think about it, I can feel my grip on that plate. And then what makes it funnier is that I can also remember the waiter's grip as they were like, I laughed my face off about this thing, and he did not. And that is what makes this the worst date. I was just like, yeah, how can you not laugh at that? That was hysterical. No warning. We're having this massive tug of war, and he was so straight faced, looking like Renee, you are totally humiliating me. But nonetheless, we carried on, finished the meal. And literally, I could bump into this person in the street. I don't know who that was because when I said I'm never seeing you again, because you did not laugh,
Right.
Again,
Wow.
Yeah, you got to have a sense of humor. That is funny. That's comical.
That
Absolutely.
is hilarious. That's hilarious. Okay,
So,
Onita.
Nina, what about you?
Well, first of all, so I was going to tell y'all early, but I didn't date a whole lot. I didn't date a whole lot because I don't know. Well, one, we were preached to be all, you basically were dating to marry, which now finding out, no, you date to see what you want in a guy, and then, but don't just be dating only to marry. Because a lot of guys at my high school, matter of fact, we're lining up for graduation. And some of them were like, I liked you, right? I wanted to ask you out, but I was like, why didn't you? And they were like, oh. I'm like, what are you? And like, oh, and literally 3 of them were like, oh, you were too intimidating. And I'm like, what? I'm sitting there, I'm a girl just like y'all, like the other girls waiting to be asked out. I'm girly, I can be sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the problem? But it may not help being in the church school, you play on the same team as the boys for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that factor. And also, I was just dealing with a whole lot more adults stuff at home than they were. So maybe they didn't see, I didn't play too many games, but so I would have liked to have dated more in my high school peers, at least, like, just so I could have been a little bit more sillier, having a good time, with them. So I did go on a date. Well, first I would say this first guy that I would say my first serious boyfriend, he was a cheap date. He was a cheap dater. What I thought to be cute initially, thinking, oh my gosh, he wants to take me around his family. I realized this fool just didn't want to spend money. Like, he picked me up and he was like, yeah, we're going to go to my mom's house and chill. And then we get there because I'm thinking, oh, we're going to go to my mom. We're going to stop by my mom's house. And back then, not now, but back then, if you're like, oh, we're going to go to Applebee's, that was the thing. Like, okay, we're going to Applebee's. Right. Mm-hmm. And then we detour, we be at his mom's house. And so we come, I'd be in the living room with his family, kind of awkward because I grew up around him. That's the only reason I was dating him, because he was a little bit older than me, like 4 years older than me. And my mom knows that now. I don't know if she knew at the time, but so I knew his siblings. Like, I played outside with his brother when they would come visit his grandma. So I was able to talk to them. His dad would just be kind of sitting there quiet, looking at me like, what's up? And I'm like, hi, how you doing? Mr. So-and-so. He'd be like, good. And then he'd just sit back watching his TV. My date would be in the kitchen. Wow. And I'm thinking, oh, he must have a lot to talk to his mom about. In a minute now, we're going to gather and we're going to go leave, because also sometimes this is during the week where I'm still in school. So they weren't really pressing my curfew, but I need to get home. And I'm sitting there and, 2 hours later, this man will come out the kitchen. He'd come out the kitchen from his mom.
To you though?
No, that's the thing. Not even talk, like, it's one thing to say
his mama.
Right. So I'm like, okay. So then he'd be like, then he'd come and sit and kind of want to chill on the couch and talk. And I'm like, okay, a little bit then, but I'm sitting there hungry because we're going to Applebee's. I mean, we're going to date. You pick me up on a date. I'm looking cute. You look cute. So after that, we basically get in the car. He wanted to just drive around, and then he put back up to my place, and I'm sitting there trying not to be like indignant, but I'm hungry.
Right.
And I'm like, so after like the 4th time of this, I realized this fool would be in the kitchen eating his mama's food.
No.
Eating his mama's food.
Come on, Onita.
Not even pulling me in the kitchen to eat. like, hey, come eat some of this. And then finally, we finally went on another date to go. And I'm like, no, you're taking me out this time. We're in Applebee's. And of course, he only wants chicken tenders and fries. That was all he would order. And then he complained about this don't taste this good and this don't taste that good. Because everything, I guess, didn't taste like mama's. And so thank God I dodged the bullet. You know, somebody put on Facebook the other day a post about your ex or something like, aren't you glad God blocked that? And I'm like, yes, I'm very glad, because I thought the familiarity with his family, like I was thinking this is going to be something. And I'm so glad God blocked it. He was cheap. I ain't say you got to spend a lot of money, but I was just like, the fact that he's sitting there in the kitchen eating, with mama, and you supposed to be taking me on a date,
hanging out with your dad. This just kind of almost creepy, actually.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to go down that route today, but
right. But I was just like, what the heck? Oh, maybe a measurement? I don't know. Maybe a little
right.
Just maybe. But I will say this, because I don't know if you guys have seen this reel or this thing going around where the guy pulled up in a Tesla. Yes, he will. But this guy pulls up to the restaurant with a Tesla. He goes around to open the lady's door, and she has the video saying, I'm not getting on the car. I'm not getting in the car. He brought me to Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
Cheesecake Factory. And this is recent. She made a whole deal about it. And of course, you got a lot of people lighting her up about it. They have other women, now, because and then they're putting a whole list. And I'm sad to say Applebee's is on that list of places they're saying your date can't take you. But I was like, when is Cheesecake Factory not an option?
That was interesting.
Yes.
But also, I listened to this woman who she coaches single women to help them, get married. And hundreds of thousands really. And she's like, she put that list out and she's like, most of the women were like, this list is crazy. This is not true. They were like a couple of things on there. They said they wouldn't go like his house, but it's like, the internet always hypes things up. One woman said, yeah, there are other people who said that too. My niece, she was just like, she told my brother, she's like, no, I wouldn't go to Cheesecake Factory. Like, the only reason I wouldn't go to Cheesecake Factory is because their menu is a book and I can't ever figure out what.
Exactly.
He's always the one who tells me what to get when I go to places like that. Well, there's just too much.
Too many options. Okay.
But that might win the reward for the worst date.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And I didn't know much better. I didn't know that, I didn't know better. And I didn't get, a whole lot of talking about dating. It was like, you can't date. Then it was like, okay, you can, but there was not much advice in what it should look like. And then some of my friends who I knew dated were either sneaking to date, so they didn't get really taken nowhere, or people were just kind of, later they dated, but nobody talked about it. So I was thinking, oh, this must be okay. I went along with that to get along too long, and I'm glad I got out.
I got out. Well, generally, when we talk about the worst date, we think it's the guy's fault. I would say it ended up being a good date. We had a good time, but this was actually my fault because I was about 23 and there was this guy, I met him at college, and this is here in Gainesville actually. And he did not have a car. And so I had to go pick him up for the date. Well, one of my previous issues was that I didn't really enjoy stopping to get gas. I mean, to do that, you can see where this story might be going.
Yes.
So I pick him up, and we are driving to wherever we're going, and we run. Actually, we were going to go to the gas station. Which is what you always say when you run out of gas. I was on my way to the gas station. and we ran out of gas. I can see it right now. We were on Archer Road in Gainesville, and we ran out of gas. And the reason this actually turned into not a bad date is because he would have laughed at the plate situation, Renee. He didn't.
Right. Okay.
He did not. He was just like, okay, what are we gonna do now? So these two guys saw us, and he was gonna push the car because we weren't that far from the gas station. He was gonna push it. And I'm just like inside, I'm kind of laughing, like, though this is embarrassing, of course, but I'm still laughing because it's kind of funny too. These two guys, they saw us and they like helped him push to the car to the gas station, and we got gas, and then we went out and we actually had a good time. But that really was not ideal.
Right.
We actually dated for a little while after that. But so he didn't ditch me after that. Like, this chick don't even know how to put gas in her car. But it was a little dicey there for me.
Put gas in your car.
The reason that I kept hanging out with him, besides the fact that he was, fine, is because because he didn't like get mad. Because a lot of people would have gotten mad and just like, how you got me out here and all this stuff. But he just rolled with it, and we just dealt with it, and then we just kept it moving. So okay, Renee.
I would say if that happened nowadays, though, Lorraine, somebody may think you was trying to traffic them. Like, this is a setup. This is a setup.
Right. I try not to do that anymore. Try not to do that anymore because now I'm old and I just need to go ahead and put gas in the car. I mean, sometimes the light does come on. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this. I'm just saying that the light was on for a minute, but like I was battling with my need to be on time because I'm like really timely versus stopping and getting gas before I picked him up. Obviously, I made the wrong decision there, but it goes back. Okay, so best date, Renee.
Okay, so one of my best dates was with a guy that I met at school at VCU. He's one of my classmates that I got along with very well in class. And one day he decides to take it out of the classroom. He says, "Hey, do you want to go out and get something to eat?" And so I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever, we'll do that." And so we went to a restaurant on campus. And of course, I was a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, just by taking this, classroom friendship out into a public space or whatever. So I was a little bit nervous, but nonetheless, when we actually went out, we ended up having such like great, I'm going to say we had good chemistry. We had really great conversation that just touched on so many different things. While we were eating, I will also say that he knocked a drink over, right? And so when the drink fell over, it was just like, oh, whatever, let's just clean it up. And we moved on. We laughed about it or whatever. Conversation continued. And then after we ate, he's like, oh, well, let's go to, someplace else to get dessert. And I'm just like, but they have dessert here. But I was like, okay, fine, whatever, we'll go. And so we went to another place to get dessert. And then afterwards, he's like, let me take you here to go listen to some music. So I was like, okay, like this is really nice and a little bit different for me at the time or whatever. And because we were students at VCU, mind you, the conversation is like amazing the whole entire time. Because we're students, we were parked in the parking deck at school. And so we ended up, as it began getting a little bit late, we ended up going to our cars at the top of the parking deck because we decided to meet there because it would just be easier for us to find each other. But it turned out to be like the perfect ending for the night because we ended up, you know how like you're talking to somebody and you're just like, you don't want the conversation to end or whatever. It was like that type of thing. We're at the top of the parking deck. We can see the skitty skyline. Hello, the city skyline. And it was, everything was just so beautiful. And at the end of it, like I could see how like he kind of didn't want to leave. Didn't want to leave or whatever. It was just so fun. We had some funny moments. He was just so respectful, not only to me, but to like any and everybody that we encountered. It was just such a good and wholesome experience. And so anyway, it just kind of gives me all the feels to kind of think back on what a great night that was. And yeah, so I would definitely say that that was one of my best or favorite dates.
Wow, that's awesome. And if you're if you're watching us, then you can put stuff in in the chat. What was your favorite date or your favorite place or some takeaway from this? So the part that I left out of the introduction is we're actually going to hear about Onita's best first date ever. So I'm going to now share my best first date, and then we're going to segue to her and we're going to go deeper into that because there's a lot of lessons that, first of all, it's an amazing story. Renee and I were just kind of like, when she told us, jaws dropped. But there's so much that we could learn from that. So we want her to share her story. But my best first date was with a guy I was living here in Gainesville. He was from Tampa. And we met because I was in Tampa at my brother's house, and a friend of his said, hey, she and I had a great conversation, and she said, hey, there's this guy that I'm friends with that I would love for you to meet. I think that you all would be a great match. Hello, can we just have just a pause right here?
Yes.
Pause. Can you help your single friends out sometimes? Can you just do, not with people who don't laugh or whatever. Just think about your single friends, male or female, and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can just make an introduction. We're not going to blame you if nothing happens or, just make an introduction. So she did. And she had just met me that day. It's not like I was friends with her. She was friends with my brother. And I was just there. And because we had a great conversation, she's like, hey, I have this friend. So we, somehow, she introduced us. We talked on the phone. It was a great conversation. And so he said, well, I'm going to come down to Gainesville to take you out. I think it happened to be a Tuesday. What would you think? And I was dressed like I was going to I didn't remember to do this until it was too late. So I couldn't, I was going to pull out the picture of what I had on because I had like a long blue velvet dress and some silver, like for real shoes. And he's coming all the way from Tampa. I didn't know. I don't know if we had plans of where to go or if he had an idea. I think he did. But because something happened in traffic, he ran into traffic. He was later than he expected to be. So we ended up going to Olive Garden, which, I'm not a huge fan of Olive Garden, but I don't hate it either. So it was just like being with him. We had the best time just talking and laughing. But the best part of the night was, now hold your judgment before, let me finish the sentence before you be like, we went to, at the time, this was the best hotel in Gainesville. See, look at that. And so we go to the hotel because you can go to the top and you can see the city or whatever. Gainesville's not a big city. It's not even like Richmond, but it's still nice. It was the nicest hotel at the time. So we go to the hotel, we go to the top, and there's a ballroom on the top floor, and it's empty, but there's a piano in the middle of the ballroom.
Ooh.
And we sneak in there because we're not supposed to be in there. No one else is there, but we sneak in. They left the door open, so we got in. And he knows how to play the piano, and I love the piano. So he sits down and he plays the piano and he like sings to me. And then we like danced a little bit, we obviously wasn't playing at that time. So we danced, you could see the stars and all this stuff. So that for me was like the best date ever.
So sweet.
I love it. Y'all had some good dates, man. Y'all had some good dates.
Guy out there who wants to do that again, come on. Support at a single mission. No, just kidding. I'm gonna hit the sister up. Okay.
Kidding but serious. Kidding but serious.
Kidding but serious. There's a little
only real inquiries.
Truth in every joke, right, Renee?
Right.
Okay, Onita. Now this is about you and your first date ever. So tell us the story, set it up. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm looking at the time clock. Okay, so we'll set it up. First off, not to shock and awe y'all, but I will tell you this person, initially I could not stand him. Okay. I want to say that because we actually worked at Sears out at Regency Mall. It's no longer there. I think they've turned into condos or apartments, but the Regency area is still there. And so I was actually dating the guy who took me to his mama's house. I was dating him at the time, and yeah. I forgot to tell y'all that part. Okay, so I was dating him, and we started things. I was already starting to feel like I'm not going to date this guy anymore. And then I did used to talk to some guys in security about wrestling. I used to watch wrestling, WWE, WCW. What was it? WWF. Mm-hmm. And so we would talk about wrestling and things. And so one night, one of the guys came up and he said, "Oh, my boy downstairs, he watches wrestling too." And I said, "He does?" I said, "What's his name?" And he told me, and I was thinking, "Oh, I kind of know him, but I didn't really know him." So they came up one night and we were talking. And so I worked in fine jewelry. And let me just tell you guys, I took my job very seriously. I mean, I studied, you had like these 12 weeks of certification. And so the time he had like a couple of gold chains on and gold watch and bracelet, and he just asked to see stuff in my case. And I'd be like, "Oh, let me show you this." And I'm all telling him only to be like, "Yeah, but mine is better than that." And I'm like, okay. Or he asked to see something else. He'd be like, "Yeah, that don't look real." And I'm like, I take my job seriously. So I'm like, "Excuse you? Okay, you know what? I'm getting sick and tired of you." But anyway, we eventually just do the friends of talking about wrestling and stuff, talk high and by whatever. But one of his friends one time was like, "Oh, yo, my boy Vic, he was saying something. He's downstairs. We were all talking about such and such. You should, when you come down, say hi to him or whatever." And I said, "All right, I will," because I didn't even know his name at the time. I was just like, "All right." So I come downstairs. You have to go through the back to check out, to swipe out the badge out. And I see a circle of people standing around somebody laughing, hanging on to this person every word. And so I come to the circle because I'm just like, again, I'm dating the guy who took me to mama's house, right? So I come through the circle and I'm like, "Oh, hi, excuse me, by the way, is your name Victor?" And he just turns and goes, "Yeah, who wants to know?" Oh. And so I was like, "I'm friends with Adrian. He told me you like wrestling too, and da da da. He's talking about having a wrestling party, and I should get to know you, whatever." So then he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah. What's your name again? You work with jewelry, right?" And I'm saying, "Negro, you know I work with jewelry. Like, you come to my counter, you've asked me about my jewelry and made jokes." So I'm like, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Keep fronting.
Act like you don't know me. So I'm like, okay. So I come out that night, and my boyfriend at the time was supposed to pick me up. We closed, and it's during the week. It's not holiday. So 9:00, we close. We're outside by 9:10. It's like 9:30. Here comes Victor strolling out with his friends. And he begins to look in the parking lot, looking left, looking right. And I'm going, "What's wrong? You looking for somebody?" He goes, "No, I'm looking for your ride. What's up? Like, where's your ride at?" And I was just like, "They're on the way. They're on the way." And he says, "Well, yeah, because if you was my girl, I'd never have you waiting outside like that." And I was like, "Okay, well, too bad I'm not," because in my mind, I'm just like, I can't stand this guy. I'm just not looking at him in that way. So fast forward, me and the guy end up breaking up, but not before he came up to the counter one day. He was waiting for me. And I was telling him about Vic and this other guy who I talked to a lot about wrestling, because wrestling is like our thing. And so when Victor comes up with his friend, I'm telling my boyfriend at the time, hey, this is Vic and his friend who I was telling you about with wrestling. Well, he only speaks to the other guy. He never says hi to Vic. He goes, how you doing? And so Vic said, hey man, how you doing? He turns around, he don't speak. And so he leaves.
He already knew. He already knew
something. He must have said, I don't know. So they leave. At that point, too, I was kind of already done with him. And I was just like, why'd you have attitude? You embarrassed me. And then look, it was like, whatever. So we ended with, I think about a week or two later, we broke up. And I was just kind of in my head, like, you know what? I'm over this. I'm going to just be dating. I'm going to be dating several people. I ain't, I'm like, I'm going to be out here, men do, they be dating multiple people. I'm going to be dating. And so I came to work. And I don't know, somebody must have told, I think, well, Victor later tells me that his friend did tell him me and the guy broke up. But I'm not operating that way. I just happened to come in and I'm just, coming to go to work. And so I came downstairs. Oh, I was going to the school trip. I'm sorry. I'm now remembering. Forgive me. I had 4 kids. My memory is kind of shoddy. So I had to
get to the big part. We're trying to get to the big part.
Exactly. I'm sorry. So I'm getting to the big part now. So anyway, I come downstairs because I buy a sleeping bag, which I know nothing about. Never been camping. Even though I had been a Pathfinder several times, I was in just for the trips. I never really paid attention. So I come down, I go, hey, this is your department, right? He goes, yeah. I was like, I need help. He helps with the sleeping bag. So then he turns and he goes, hey, when are you going to take me to the movies? And I'm like, what? I said, well, I actually don't take guys out. They take me out. Well, he flips his card out. I wish I had a card. He flips his card out. He goes, here's my card. I get off at 9. Call me tonight about 9:30. And he already had written his personal number in the back. And so I'm like,
he was ready to go.
He was ready. Okay, he was ready. Now I'm telling my version of this. If you guys get him on here, he's gonna have a little bit more version that makes me sound like I was looking for him, but I was not.
Get him on here actually. So.
Yes. So anyway, I get home that night. He says I call him at 9:30 and 0 seconds. I felt like it was like 9:40. And so I get home, I call him, and we end up staying on the phone for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. It's one of those times where you're talking so much about everything that I think we end up falling. One of us fell asleep and maybe woke back up, was like, oh, hey, maybe we should hang up. But we decided to go on a date we're going to go on a date 2 days after that. And we've been talking both nights on the phone a lot. And so he picked me up from school, which was another little comedic moment because it was a private church school that's K through 12. And so as he comes to get me, he drives past the school and comes back around because he's confused that there's a place set out back. Like, he's like, she said she's in 12th grade. What's going on here? And when I come out, because it's, everybody knows everybody. Some of the little kids are, bye, Anita. They all waving to me and stuff. So when I get in the car, he goes, I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey. He turns to me. Again, it's only by the grace of God we made it past this point. He goes, are you special? And I said,
oh my God.
I said, I mean, of course, I'm Anita. He goes, no, I mean, I said,
okay. In the chat, I need you to comment on that. That is hilarious to y'all. Okay? He didn't know how to ask, but he was just like, I gotta
ask. The New York in him had zero filters. He just flat out asked. And I said, wait a minute, what do you mean? He said, because I saw a place set out back. And aren't you in 12th grade? And I said, oh. I said, yeah, this is a private.
Oh my God.
I said, yeah, it's a private church. We go from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And he was like, oh, okay. So it's like, I'm sitting there like, this almost became the worst.
You didn't hear this part the first time.
Oh, yeah, I didn't tell y'all those details. Sorry. So that almost became the worst date ever because I'm like, okay, so yeah, so
we made it past. Renee can't even.
together
Look, I thought the tissue was for romantic tears, not.
Oh my goodness. Look at this, y'all. Look at what she said. And you
Tis
got
true.
Yes.
you got to hear.
Wow.
You got to
Tis
hear.
true. So let me transition. So we did go on a date, and then he brought me. We came home, and so he initially I was like, oh, we can go watch the movie at my house. Nobody's people are there, but they don't believe they shouldn't be there on this time, but they're not going to bother us. And so he came home to my house, and I think my grandmother might have been there. Yes, she was there. And so we was watch this movie, which I don't know, thinking about it, might not have been a good date movie. It was A Time to Kill. Like based on To Kill a Mockingbird, that may not have been the best movie to watch. It's just God is funny. Okay, that's all I gotta say. So we started watching it, but then out of nowhere, my family busts the door in. So I think my grandmother, now looking back, she may have called people. My aunts, two of them, we see them holidays. They happen to come with all their kids, and here's my four siblings. The house is full with people, and I said there'd be nobody here. Here's everybody busting up the house, and they're checking them out or whatever. So we decided, you know what, we're gonna walk to the park up the street, our community center clubhouse. We're gonna walk up there and talk. And so we're walking because we're like, we've been spending the last couple of nights talking a lot. And through the time of wrestling and other things, I began to also learn different things about him and knew that he was in school too and living with his grandmother. And he moved down to just be there with them and help as his grandfather was ailing and that had passed. And so I was like, man, this, respects his grandmother. He's nice, he's hardworking. Look, he got good credit, he got good hair. And so, but I also knew, even though behind the cocky exterior that I initially couldn't stand, I was like, oh my God, he's just kind of a softy inside. But so we walked to the park and we're sitting on the swing, and the community clubhouse there is boarded up. Like, it'd been boarded up. We knew it was. And so we're sitting on the swing and we're talking and we're trying to decide, if we're gonna, proceed, go forward, to be serious. He had been in a couple of relationships, and one was even at school, at the job, where he was like, he's never gonna date there again because he don't want no drama. And for me, with dating the last guy and losing my father, for both of us, he lost his stepdad who raised him probably a couple of months prior, and I actually had checked in on him, and that's kind of what he says he knew for him. Okay, he started to see me differently because we weren't that close, and I still made it a point to check on him. For me, I also knew if I was dating, I was like, I don't want to waste time. I kind of went into this knowing if I'm dating, I'm probably going to be dating to marriage. Now, that's probably not the same advice I would give my daughter right now, who's away at college, to just be dating to marry. But yeah, we're going to take this part out. But I kind of did that. So we're sitting there and we're discussing, if we're going to be monogamous, and legit said, hey, either we're going to be together, just you and I, or we're not going to waste each other's time. So we're sitting there, and out of nowhere, this guy walks from, like, basically by the door, by the community center that we knew I was like, where'd he come from? That was boarded up. And he walks over to us and he goes, young man, he starts talking to us. You guys are dating. And we were like, yeah. And he said to him, young man, this is a respectable woman. He just started kind of speaking, like, I don't know this guy. He started speaking to me, and he did ask, was I a Christian? I said, yes. And I believe in God. And so he said, it's up to you also, young man, to keep her holy. And he said, you know what I'm saying, right? And he was kind of encouraging us to, if we're going to be together, to abstain. And I can be honest and say at that point, some of that late night talking sometimes was us being a little frisky on the phone. And so I was sitting there like, oh my God, what is he? Okay. So he's telling us, if you decide to be together, be respectful of one another, kind of, he said stuff to you now that I'm thinking about where, she needs to be loved, and you need to, telling him that, hey, you need to love her if you're going to be with her and respect her, but also he needs your respect and he needs your appreciation. And just that if you're going to decide to do this, you guys need to do it right, basically. And so we're sitting there like, oh my God, okay. And then he walks off. The part I did forget to say though was, right before this, we prayed. I said, which was weird. It was out of character. It was nothing I'd never done in any prior relationships. And because he knew I went to church, but I I was going sometimes on Saturday for the sake of not hearing my mama's mouth
Mhm.
or nobody's mouth. I could say I was way out of like feeling it here. I was more so going out of obligation. But for some reason I decided, you know what, let's pray. We're gonna pray to decide if we're gonna be together. And
Mhm.
so he was like, okay, he was down with it. I'm like, okay, we prayed. And that's when the guy walked out. And so once the guy walked out and he said that to us, and if you're gonna be together and all this stuff, and young man, keep her holy and you keep him holy, he left and we sat there like silence and like what in the world just happened, because it was like he came and answered a prayer, answered the exact prayer we had just prayed. And again, it was so out of character for him and me. Like
Mhm.
he would tell you at that point he was seeing me Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter. That's it. That was as far as he went with church. And so we sat there for a little bit, just quiet, and then we decided to get up and start walking back to my apartment. And so, and then walk back, we decided. He said, "Well, I guess we got our answer." And I was like, "I guess we do." And so we decided to, from that point, we would be monogamous and would be dating. And so, I happily say that we're 23 years married now. January 1st will be 24 years that we're married, and just want to encourage somebody that you can maybe not like a person at first that can, that can what look lessons in life. It can become a husband. Um, Sydney, to stand on what you believe, even if, because I will say the prior relationship from him, a lot of times I compromised on a lot of things and it got me nowhere. I compromised on my beliefs. I compromised, like, going out a lot on Friday nights
Mhm.
late and doing things like that. And I would feel awkward and uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the less uncomfortable you feel.
Right.
Some things I did that I said I wouldn't do until I got married. And so I would say one, stand firm in your beliefs, because God's timing is right. It will happen when it's supposed to. Also, be fearless. Actually, ask the stuff that you probably wouldn't have asked in another date. Like when you
Yes.
are dating,
Yes.
ask the questions that you probably would not have. Ask the hard stuff. And
Yes.
some of those times when we were talking a lot, it was asking hard stuff that I was like, I look at me now, looking back at that 18, 19-year-old girl going, what the heck? Where did she come off? Asking this stuff. But it's because of the stuff that I've seen growing up, other relationships, a lot of dysfunctional ones. And I really have made up in my mind, we both had, life was so short, we didn't want to waste each other's time. So we knew that much going in, that foundationally, either we're going in this thing seriously, we're like laying all our cards on the table, or we're
Yes.
not, or we're just gonna be friends. We're not gonna waste each other's time. And I think that was a big part of what helped us, hit off
Mhm.
so well in the beginning and have the tough conversations. We had money conversations. We talked about desires to have kids or own a home, as well as our discipline styles. How do you think you're supposed to discipline kids later? And that kids didn't come to much later, maybe 7 or 8 years later. But we talked about those things. We
Right.
talked about conflicts. How are you when you get mad? Like, what's your go-to? So, because I want to know too if I even want to deal with that
Yeah.
later. And so we talked about some of those things. And again, I can say that was the Holy Spirit leading me in that way. That's not something that I think I consciously even knew I had, because if I did, let me put it this way, I compromised still in previous relationships. I
Right.
didn't ask those questions, and I didn't fully show up as me and all of me. And I guess at that moment too, I knew my self worth and I was confident in who I was. And it was kind of like, you're going to take it or leave it. And he was there at the same time. So the timing was right for us.
I love that.
Yes. I love that so much. I mean, there's so much in that we can take away, and we're going to talk about that. But I think that one of the first things we're going to just share some tips when you're dating, first date, or just when you're new in the dating process. Um, but one of the first things that I had on my list that you said is that you just said whatever you thought. You asked the questions, and mine, it just says speak up. And what's so different in contrast with the story that you told about your worst date is that you had these feelings like something made, like, what are we doing? But you didn't say anything. And then you kept dating the person.
Yes.
So like that was a complete, like it's almost like you were a different person from the time you broke up with this Joker to the time you met Victor.
Yes.
And that was a couple days, you know. And so speak up, because it's really, this is almost, I know people don't think about it this way, but when you first meet someone is the best time to speak up, because you don't know them, you don't love them, you don't have any investment in them.
Right.
So now is the time to actually be your true authentic self versus, you know, just giving them drips of it because, oh, well, I want them to like me. Why do you want them to like not you?
Yes.
Because if you're not being authentic, then they actually don't like you. They like what you are pretending to be. So I love when you were just like, we just laid it out on the table. That's why we were talking for so long, because you can, when you talk about real stuff,
yes,
you can talk a lot longer than when you just talking up, you know, that surface stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Renee, did you have anything as it relates to that, or did you have another tip or something that you pulled from, you know, her story?
Yeah, in relation to what you just said, I mean, I would say, you know, when you are dating, exactly what Onita said, you want to know what your intentions are. You also want to know what it is exactly you're looking for, right? You want to have an idea, so that when you see anything that's, you know, in opposition to that, you already know we're gonna go in different directions. This is not going to work. And you can move on, because the less time you spend with those who are not for you, you can get yourself on the road to the person who is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I love that too.
Who is? Yes, honey. Yes. And it's like you said, again, I just love what you both have said. And you said, show up, but also don't waste your time. Because Renee, I would tell you, a lot of times I've seen people in my life that have spent so much time with the wrong person. Either they're blocking themselves from the right one coming, or by that time your own self-worth has diminished so much because you've not spoken up a lot and you've taken so much. It could even be verbal abuse or physical, or just a lot of rejection, not being in that right thing, that even now you're not, a good guy could come, but now you're still wounded. You're not even able to receive it. And so I follow what you said, Renee, about just not wasting too much time with that wrong person. Now, I will say I've seen the other spectrum where there's some people who have this list of 100 things. And if the brother ain't got all 100, they like, hey.
Yes.
And I think that's unrealistic.
I agree with both those points. Yeah. You don't need a list of 100. And the list, I'm not against lists. We talked a little bit about this, but your list needs to be character and not dumb superficial stuff. Like, there actually was a poll, like some researcher poll that was done that said that there are a majority of women who, when asked, said they would not date someone who was less than 6 feet tall. I was just like, are you kidding me? If he's 5'5.25", even if he's 5'4", because I'm 5'5", I'm still going for it. And it's just like, if you have someone who has the character, like it, and it's just a weird mindset around that whole thing in 6 figures. And there aren't that many people that make six figures for real.
Yeah.
And so understanding that your list really needs to be about something substantive, and you knew what that was. Even if you hadn't written it down, you already knew what to exclude because of what you've already seen, both in your and in other people's lives. But you also asked the hard questions, so you knew that list was like, oh yeah, okay, we're on the same page with
yes.
This. So
and we joke now that he'll tell people, even now, if he, like today he had to wear a suit for his board meeting. He's like, so many people compliment me, and he'll tell all the time, well, my wife helped dress me, because there was a time we was Poindexter-ish, and I remember after one time preaching, saying too, you know, some of y'all looking for Mr. Right now, driving the right car, having the right look, you know, back then, you know, back there looking like, you know, back then it was like looking like Albie Shore and Genuine. You know, Dustin brother stay back his style too.
That girl, you went back.
I'm telling you.
Right.
But he was like, you know, he said that. Look at the core values. Are they trustworthy? Are they honest? You can change the outfit. I mean, shoot, I forget that one movie where the lady was dating Bobby Brown and she wouldn't pay to have his teeth fixed. I don't know. I can't remember what that movie was.
That movie.
I'm gonna figure it out. But Bobby Brown teeth was his grill was messed up and he was a mechanic.
Watched the movie with Bobby Brown in it, but
it's old though. It's old. And I can't remember the name of it.
But
But
yeah,
certain things you can change that, you know, outfit, haircut, style. But like you said, those core values are key, you know, and to what you want to look for, that character.
absolutely. So my next
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think I heard it somewhere that we don't want our preferences to have us passing on our purpose partner. So that's just what we were just talking about.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my next one is just kind of fun, but it makes sense. Like, don't wear uncomfortable stuff on your date. Not even just your first date, on any date. You can't breathe, you can't eat, you can't walk in it, like, because you never know. So Renee, when he asked you on your best date, when he asked you to go out, you didn't necessarily know all of the things that you were going to be doing. And so what if he says, let's go for a walk, and you got these 4-inch heels on and you trying to act like they aren't hurting your feet? It's very hard to be as sociable when your feet hurt or your stuff's too tight or you can't eat because you know if you're going to bust a button and it's going to fly and hit him in the eye. So all of these things, I mean, you really shouldn't do that anytime, but sometimes, you know, women, we try so hard to be attractive that we actually almost become unattractive, because guys don't really necessarily like that kind of stuff so much. When you hear guys talk about it, they're like, I mean, some stuff we just don't even care about or even notice. So be cute, but be comfortable so that you can roll with, you know, if you have a great conversation at the restaurant and he's like, oh, let's go for a walk. You either have a pair of shoes that you can change into, or the ones you got on are cute enough and comfortable enough to roll with that. Because you don't want to be thinking about your feet the whole time when you're trying to have a conversation.
Having a bad attitude out of nowhere because your pinky toe hurting. No.
So what else you got, Renee?
Other than get gas, I would say
that ain't even right. Did you have that before?
No, ma'am. I wrote it in. I thought that was a very significant point. Okay. Thank you for that.
No, that's good. That's good. I'll give you that
one. Planning. Taking all things into consideration during your planning. And actually, when I thought of that one, I was thinking of a guy asking me out and how impressed I was with the thoroughness of his planning. Right. I think with this one, we were supposed to be going to the theater. It was in town for a certain, number of days. And he picked the day that he thought was best. And he was like, oh, because I know you have this going on this day. Your son has this going on this day or whatever. Wow. And it's just like, well, isn't that nice?
Paying attention.
He
was paying attention.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was the theater is something that I enjoy very much. Yeah, he took all things into consideration, and took the initiative, stood in that leadership role to go ahead on and, make those plans. I loved that. I thought that was really wonderful. And then with that, I mean, it goes into what you were saying about being comfortable, but also appropriate for whatever the event is. So those are just some things from that particular encounter that I had that I would suggest. And it's great for women to plan dates as well. But yeah, that attention to detail really does matter. And if you're with the right person, they're going to appreciate those things.
Absolutely. Yes. All right, Anita, what you got? You got another one?
Another one I would say is don't stop dating. Meaning when you're in the relationship and then no matter how close or long you've been in it, continue to date each other. Okay, to Renee's point, the women can plan it. I do feel like though when he does plan it, or at least for me, I'm like, ooh, the extra detail, planning it for our case, booking the sitter. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah.
and it. But you got to keep doing that. And to that point, remembering, ladies, that men are still visual creatures. Don't get so comfortable where, I mean, yeah, he may have seen you in your bonnet, but don't think too, you don't need to do a little something extra when it's
Yes.
date night. Like, still look your best. They like, they like going out in public and, having people checking you out too, like, so they can be proud, be like, yeah, that's my lady, that's she with me kind of thing. So
Right.
keep the dating going and also keep yourself up as far as I'm not, need to go too extreme. I ain't say go get Botox and BBL. You want your body's your prerogative, but try to ensure that, especially for us married women, don't get too comfortable in being comfortable as far as not trying. She continue to, if it's gonna be a date night, get dolled up, do something extra. Go get your chin wax. I gotta get my look. I don't think I'm due yet, but go get it. Don't be on the date. Don't be on the date making out and you feel it is just a scruff.
What is wrong with Onita today? I love it.
Because listen, I'm telling y'all, I'm getting the parent pick up and drop off line. And some different shows. Like, and there's some of my other married friends that too, when they may see a picture of Victor and I out at date night, they be like, "Oh my God, was it your anniversary?" Because they figured, I put makeup on and I've done a little something. And I'm like, no, it's just a Tuesday. We got a sitters date night, and we went out because I'm saying don't take it for granted. Being too comfortable and not realizing that you still need to date each other. The kids are there, and when you go on a date, even if you need to Google it, because we'll do that, pull up questions. Like we actually, because you will, if you're in a relationship, you sometimes get into that routine of talking about what you need to do, how was work,
right.
Current politics. Now, if y'all new to dating, do not talk about religion or politics. I don't know if y'all got it down, but y'all may break up quick. Don't do it. But have some questions ready. There's so many different date night questions. If you put them in there, and family night questions too that are on Google, because that way it kind of it forces you to have a check-in. Honestly, actually having a check-in to see where your head is at. What is your favorite movie and what inspires you? What makes you feel sad? Tell me about a childhood memory. There's so many different questions out there, but even being married almost 24 years, there's things about your spouse because we change. That when we have these moments, we begin to learn about each other more because we're actually, on this dating each other right now. So I probably just gave y'all like 7 tips, but pull out what you do.
I love that.
Wax your chin. Don't forget, wax your chin.
Okay. So one of mine is, especially on your first date, go somewhere public or in a group. I really am a proponent for group dating because you actually can get to know someone really, really well by how they interact with other people. Because someone can put up a front with just you, and when you are already just kind of interested in them, it's easy to kind of glaze past some of the things that you see. But other people are they're going to call those things out, or you're going to see, wow, I love how he interacts with with everybody, and you can observe him in his true self versus what he's trying to put on for you. So if you are, so I am a proponent for group dating, especially the beginning parts of your relationship. But if you don't want to do that, at least go somewhere public, just because we're talking about safety as well. And so, that's one of mine.
Yeah, go out before the street lights come on. Like keep it out public to see what their mind, what their eyes looking like, what they're talking about, what they're saying, and stop texting all the time. Pick the phone up and call and FaceTime because.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. We're actually running out of time. But Renee, what you got? We'll give 2 or 3 more.
We touched on a lot of mine. Okay, so I have one that's really churchy, but it's real. All right. We already talked about their presentation, their character, and all that kind of stuff. But the one that I have learned to really cherish now is look for those, look for a man that exhibits the fruits of the Spirit,
All
who's
right.
patient, who's kind. Somebody mentioned, how do they act when they're angry, stuff like that. All of these things really matter, and I think we've talked about it in numerous episodes about how the Bible is a guideline to our life. It tells us, number one, how we should be carrying ourselves. And if it's saying this is how we should carry ourselves, then that's how they should be carrying themselves. And that is what we are looking for. It
Right.
really, really matters.
It really, really.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's good. That's good. I've heard a lot of people, first of all, with social media, everybody sounds like an influencer now. So I people dropping tips all the time. But one that's repeatedly has come up is a woman's heart should be buried so deep in God that a man has to seek God to find it. And that is so true, because if you are a Christian or you're professing to be a godly woman, that's don't break your morals on that. Like, that's a non-negotiable.
Right.
And please don't think that you can just change them and you can't. Sydney still on? Okay, you can't twerk it good enough to change him and all those things. Like, either he wants to serve God and go be that way. We're not saying not make mistakes, but either that's what he wants, that's his life, or he doesn't. Like, you can't. Those are things you can't change. In a person. So I follow what Renee is saying.
This is so true. This is so true. And if you are believing that you can change him, well, first of all, you're wrong. But if you're committed to that, then don't date him. Just do Bible studies with him. Just pray for him and just be friends. But don't try to mix those two, because that gets ugly most of the time. Because how many times have we heard someone getting baptized because they just want to be with this person? As soon as the wedding happens, then the baptism's over, and they just like they do their own thing. And the reality is, that you want. I've heard this a lot lately. I've watched this podcast that's by men, and they have a lot of men on there. And a lot of, even though it's not a Christian podcast, they have a lot of men who are Christian and who believe in God and the Bible, and they try to live by that. And they were talking about how a woman wants a man who can cover her. And this is not a term that our particular faith community really uses a lot, but like, I get it, because you want security and protect. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about that sense of security and protection. And that person is not just looking out for your physical being, but they're really bringing you to God spiritually. Like, that person is banding the house together. That's what a husband does. And that has to start with Christ. So if you dragging them to church, or you dragging them to read the Bible, or you making them pray, then not only do you feel exposed, that's not our job as women. We weren't created for that, to be the spiritual head of our household. And sometimes situations happen and it just is what it is. But we do feel exposed. We do feel, because we aren't having that covering. Now we're covering somebody else. So we're trying to figure that out. And so I definitely think that that's just really important. And just comes back to the whole thing about character. Who is he? Not just who is he with everybody else, or even you. Who is he with God? Like, what does that relationship look like? Because if he's not doing it before, don't imagine that that's going to happen just because you said I do. And so he has to be really training. God is training him to be a husband, just like he should be training us to be wives.
Yes.
So that when we come together, we're not trying to figure that out, or we just like don't even know what that means. We just want to be happy. Well, you're probably not going to be. So if you're feeling, unsafe and insecure about the whole household.
Can I give one more tip that I'm even doing now as a married woman? Date yourself. Like, take you out, see what it is that you actually like and don't like, because sometimes you are dating, or we get too reliant on what the guy is going to do, how he's gonna. So for instance, that lady who got mad about the guy taking her to Cheesecake Factory. Well, if that was a non-negotiable for you, you should have said that even when we were talking. But how would you know? Some women don't know what they like, and so date yourself, take yourself out, spend some time by yourself, and if you're getting out of a relationship, take time to heal, to go through the steps of whatever your healing is going to look like. And that may even take going to therapy, because if you see that you're in a lot of relationships, a lot of failing relationships, then it can't be everybody else. There's something else in you that needs to be, that you need to heal from, so that you can be open to receiving healthy love and recognizing what it looks like when it does come. Because if you didn't have that growing up, in your home, if you didn't have it in your core, like your sphere of influence, people that you saw a lot, it's hard to recognize. You may not be able to recognize what's a healthy situation and what's not healthy. And why do I keep doing this? And why do I keep failing these relationships? See somebody talk, get some help with that. Try to become your best self so that you are open to receiving the best person God has for you. But date yourself. Even if you're married with kids, take yourself out.
Mhm.
Go try something new. I'm a husband. I'm trying to take him to salsa lessons. He may not give in to that one. He said he may go and watch and support me, but I'm going. I'm just gonna go it alone. So
Alright.
I'm gonna find out.
Okay. So that made me think of one more thing I wanted to say, because I don't think we've ever said this, and I don't really talk about this and more. I'm learning about this more, is that actually go date, go where men are.
Yeah.
Because as Christian, you mentioned this even, Onita, when you were talking about, I was in the church, and you don't really date a lot, and it's true. You date people in the church, but then you can't really date people in the church, because if
Mm,
you do, it's almost like, well, you have to marry that one person, and then if you break up, you know, especially for women, it just
yeah.
oh, they different terms that they use for women who might date several guys in the church. You're just like, well, I'm just dating them, but now there's an assumption, all that.
Yeah.
I was listening to the same podcast, and the guy was he's a pastor, and he was saying, one of the issues for women, especially when you get your 30s, 40s, even 50s, is that you don't go where men are.
Mm-hmm.
Go where men are. And like, one of the best things that he said, and I was just like, if I'm not getting ready to go do that as soon as I can, he said, go to the Chamber of Commerce
Mm,
for business people, but most of them are men. They are men with businesses. They are men who are ambitious. They are men in suits, because I love a good man in a suit.
ah,
There was a time when I just, I had that mindset of just like, go, I want to date someone that I want to, and I'm like 53. I want to date someone that I could potentially marry. But now it's been so long since I actually just been on a date that it feels like I would be out of practice. So I'm just like, I want to be around men that I could possibly just go have dinner, have a conversation. And it
yeah.
doesn't have to be like, oh, now I've decided to commit my life and my soul to this person, but
Yeah.
I could just start being exposed to other people, other conversations, other activities, so I'm just like, go where men are. Go to Home Depot and act like you don't know what you
Hello.
like.
My favorite stores.
Lowe's is my place. But like, he started talking about some places, and I was just like, whoa, I never even thought about that. But there's going to be predominantly men in those places. And so I think that we just need to be wise. Obviously we're certainly not proponents of, sex before marriage, and even a lot of the pre-sex things, we don't advocate that at all. So you're just enjoying people's company, but you're getting to know people. And even if that person, you don't have chemistry, they may know someone that, they're like, hey, you know what, y'all? And so there are all of these different things. Yeah.
Yes. Woo. You did on a.
Yeah, you just reminded me. You just reminded me of something. This was 150 million years ago. We are a group of my friends and I. We were up at First Church, wherever that was, Baltimore, Maryland, DC, wherever. Anyway, so we were up there, and somebody spoke to me pleasantly, And shamefully, I probably looked like I brushed them off or something like that. And so another gentleman saw that and came to me and told me to be careful with that. They were like, be careful with that, because everybody who looks like they're trying to hit on you may not. They may know somebody or whatever, you know what I mean? So watch yourself when it comes to stuff like that. So I appreciated that, because it just kind of, you know, it set me straight. I appreciated that.
Because when you go through life single for a long time, you start to just kind of become comfortable, even though in your mind you may want something different, but you still have to adjust. You still have to live. You still, I believe in embracing where you are in life, but it doesn't mean that you can't do other things in order to move to the next part of, if that's God's will for you. But, yes, God could send someone to your house, but that's generally not how it works. You got to be out in the community, you gotta be out and doing activities, volunteering, and first of all, some of y'all need to go to church, because you're going to church, you're online doing stuff, and how you gonna meet anyone? But I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. So because it's time for us to go. But so just experience public, like go to dinner, go to places where you can meet people.
Lorraine, I wanted to add this one book. It kind of ties on what you were saying, because in it they're talking about the whole purity culture and how much more that was forced out of the evangelical church and Christian churches, where girls were really like literally encouraged, be pure. God's going to see that person, don't date. But how, and looking at it, that generation of women, and I think some of us included in that, actually the relationships were worse versus the older culture. Our grandparents, they dated a lot, and they may have went with John on Monday to the movies, and they went with Tim to the game on Friday night. They did date, but they did, and it wasn't just going to get married. They literally just dated to get to know this person. But when they did, and they were being courted, which I love, and then once they were courted, then the one that was the one they went steady with. Right. And so by that time, they did know what they like and they didn't like. And I think it was so interesting to hear that perspective in there. But I knew people right in church who literally said, I'm not dating. They'd be like, why? And they literally would say, oh, God's going to send the man to me. And I was like, okay, let's be clear. I just want to clear. Are you saying you don't have to date and the one, so he's just going to walk up to you one day and go, God sent me to you? Mm-hmm. And they said yes. And I was like, okay, that didn't happen. Okay, so, but the book I'm listening to for moms who are also raising daughters, I learned some great information in it. I'm still listening because I'm taking so many notes and some statistics, but it's called She Deserves Better. She Deserves Better. It's raising girls to resist toxic teachings on sex, self, and speaking up. We said that tonight about speaking up. We talked about our core values.
Who wrote that?
This is by Sheila Ray. I want to say Gregor. She's one of the names, but she's also, it's Rebecca Gregor Lindenbach, and I'll text it to you. And Joanna.
Okay. Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat right now. This is so good, especially for women who are in the church, like who are Christians. It helps honestly dispel a lot of the, I would say, wrongful teachings we got, or lack of teachings, because some things we only got told a couple of things: abstain, get married. There's so many things in the middle that we never got taught, and a lot of us just fumbled into it and learned better. But especially if you have daughters, I would say sons too, you have children that you're raising out there, that this is some great practical lessons, but spiritual lessons, and that they gave us, that they're talking about in here that I'm learning from and pausing and taking notes and even going back and going, ooh, let me listen back to that again. So, but I'll put it in the chat too, so you can be able to share it on the.
I love that. I love that. Well, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. And that's partly what we are trying to do. Let God use us to help those things. God will speak to us, and we know that to be true, but he also uses people and situations and experiences and YouTube programs to speak to us as well. So when you hear God speaking, like Onita talks about with her story with Victor, is that, okay, first of all, she was convicted to pray, which that's God saying. I mean, we don't just come up with that idea on our own. But then God sent someone that they didn't even know to speak a word, that they actually listened. They listened to God's word through this person that they didn't even know, because it was obvious it was God speaking. And now they are, almost 24 years into marriage. And so trust God, because he does have a plan for you. He's not leaving you out there on your own just to kind of figure this out on your own, but trust him, pray, and then let him direct you to the things that you need to be doing if you desire marriage. All right, so we starting a book launch team. To read the book, you get the book before it's actually published, and then you would help us to promote it. You would read it, and then you would do a review on Amazon once it is released, and there would probably be some discounts with you to get the book, the actual official book. But we really need people to be a part of this, as many people as possible. So please share. But the only thing is you have to actually do the review, because that's what helps us to get to other people. So remember, we are promoting my book, Pray It Forward, a devotional and journal for women, wives who choose to fight on their knees. If you're tired of fighting your husband, but you want to fight for your marriage, this is the book for you. So if you would like to be a part of that launch team, we're launching December 3rd, but I need to hear back from you soon, because it's already at the editor's part of most of it. And so this thing is moving. So I need you all. I need you all. It doesn't have to be women. It can be whomever. And you don't even really have to read the whole thing. You just get the sense of it. But I mean, the devotionals are pretty short, so you could do that. Book launch team support@asinglemission.com. Just hit us up with an email. We would love to have you to be a part of that. Again, we are trying to grow and do some things, so we would love for you to donate at singlemission.com. Just hit the donate button and just gift us with something that we can use. So as we have guests on here, we try to support them and just provide them with a thank you. We can't obviously pay them what they're worth, but we would like to do thank yous, and so we need a little money flowing through to be able to do that. So you can please, if the Lord moves on your heart, please hit us with a donation. We thank you for that. And let me drop this in the chat for you to get that book that she was just talking about. And we thank you so much for watching again and for sticking with us today. And until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless you.